Namaste and welcome to this 7 p.m. show today. And it's a somewhat unusual show. And, a lot of people keep asking about our rishis and how they were able to do such wonderful things when there was really hardly any aid. And at that time, I think they truly used to follow the law of nature, what they call Ritam, Satyam, and Dharma. And accordingly, they used to make the best out of the nature as it presented itself. Yat pinde tat brahmande. That is, they looked at the brain as a reflection of the cosmos. And that is how they used to be such great geniuses in their own times. And today I have Dr. Archana Purushotham, and we are going to discuss the ways. And Namaste, Archana ji, how are you?
Namaste, Sanjay ji.
We are going to discuss the ways of how you can bring up your children and make them intellectual giants. Of course, let me introduce Dr. Archana Purushotham first for you. She is from Texas, Houston, and she is a neurologist. Apart from being a neurologist, she's done a lot of research in brain functions and use of Ayurveda to improve brain functions, especially among older people. And so she is perfectly equipped to deal with this subject as to how yoga actually improves brain function. And at the same time, if you add Sanskritam and the old Shastric way of learning, then you have the perfect recipe. And it's not as if she is an armchair expert. She is actually practicing what she preaches, in the sense that out of her 3 children, 2 are being homeschooled in the Gurukulam way. And we've already introduced to you on this forum Vijay Lakshmi ji, whose 2 children were also homeschooled, and they're doing wonderfully well in the US universities without any guilt or without any self-loathing, which most of our children who go from here, they start indulging in self-reproach, self-loathing, guilt, and they really they feel ashamed to put themselves out as Sanatanis and even Indians, and they try to become brown sahibs. The confused desi, as we call it, the confused desi syndrome. None of that for these children. So how does that become possible? I'm going to go straight to Archana ji and put some questions to her. Archana ji, please tell us. You are doing brain mapping, brain functions. You've done a lot of research in that. And at the same time, you have put your children into Shastra-based all-round education in Sanskrit. And of course, you bring them up with the proper dose of yoga, that is all-round yoga, not just the 4 limbs of yoga, but the 8 limbs, that is both the preparation as well as the real yoga, that is the union of the buddhi with the chitta. That's how our ancients looked at it. So may I ask, why?
First of all, Sanjay ji, thank you very much for inviting me to be on this show. It's an absolute privilege to be here. Yes, my children are in the Agastya Gurukulam, and they are learning Sanskritam and Sanskrit-based education and Shastric education. The question why, I believe that this education will bring out the full potential of their brain, of their abilities to learn and to do more things. So I believe that our, Shastric ways, our lifestyle, they were really geared towards developing brain potential to the fullest. depending, on whatever people want to do. You have all of it. So that's the short answer to why they're doing this.
Let me put a rejoinder to it. I mean, is it just a belief, or there is some scientific basis to it?
Oh, there is definitely scientific evidence to it. So, I mean, right at this point, there is no question at all about the effects of yoga and yogic practices on the brain. There has been so much research on this in the West. Yoga modulates brain connectivity in many ways. And this has been found to be helpful both in healthy people, and in yoga, I'm including pranayama, meditation, many of the techniques that are broadly yoga, not just, just doing a few poses. So you can even see, so for instance, there is research showing how just after one session of meditation, just one session, you can show a difference in how the brain reacts. For instance, reaction time on certain tasks, it drops. And when you do this over and over and over again, those changes are longer lasting. Similarly, with yogic practice over a period of time, for instance, there is a demonstrated difference in connectivity between different parts of the brain. And you may have heard about this study that became quite famous in the Indian press, although I don't think it was quoted very accurately, where they showed that, those who've been trained in Sanskrit and Vedic chanting for many years, they show the differences in the amount of gray matter in certain parts of the brain related to memory and other areas, which are not there in those who haven't done this kind of, long time chanting and memorization. So there is plenty of evidence to show that these things do affect the brain. Now, to what extent, we don't know the full extent. A lot more research needs to be done. We only know that it does that. And, as we speak, people are working on these in many parts of not just India, but in the world.
Last time I spoke to Vijay Lakshmiji, she talked about how they teach in their Gurukulam that they used to have, and now they have fashioned this Agastya Gurukulam on the lines of the Gurukulam experience that she had with her kids. And they not only teach other things, but this education is not actually what is called the religious education, but it is purely secular education in the sense that you're taught sciences, you're taught Ganita, that is mathematics, and all the other normal subjects that children learn. But you do it through which medium? Do you teach them entirely in Sanskrit, or you use the medium that their mother tongue? How do you do it?
So we entirely do this in Sanskritam. So the medium of education is fully Sanskritam in our Gurukulam. We do teach 2 other languages too, meaning we use a 3-language formula. So every child learns 3 languages. But all these secular subjects, so-called, you might term them under secular subjects, meaning things that are taught in a regular school, Ganitam or maths, and then social studies, which includes Itihasa and Bhugola, and also Vijnana. So all of these are taught through the medium of Sanskritam. So that, in fact, is what makes our Gurukulam unique. There are many Gurukulas that teach, religious things. So there's a lot of religious, like Veda Gurukulams and things like that. Those Gurukulas focus on religious teaching, and even when they teach other subjects, so many of them function as schools as well, but typically, even in India, they follow like their state board curriculum or, the CBSE curriculum, whatever they pick. And it's not that part is not in Sanskrit. The Sanskrit part is only the religious education. But this is actually, from what we are aware of, this is completely unique. It's the first time it's being done in modern times. perhaps since the Macaulay era. This is the first time that we are trying to revive this. We went with Sanskritam. All children do learn their mother tongue as a language, but the medium of education for the common subjects is Sanskrit.
Okay, and the natural question that arises, and how are the examinations held? Are you affiliated to a board somewhere in the US or in India, or how does that take place?
Right. So right now we are not affiliated with any board. We call it a homeschool. So this is essentially for parents who want to do homeschooling, which both in India as well as in the US, there is a homeschooling pathway. There are boards that allow homeschool children to take the exams in the 10th standard or the appropriate at high school level. So this would be right now, it's a homeschool, but we are actively looking at getting board recognition and certification. So hopefully before too long, we will actually be recognized by boards both in the US and in India. And that's also one of the reasons right now we have it limited to first standard to eighth standard, so that by the end of their eighth standard, children, if they wish, can mainstream into the regular education system, into regular schools, and take the regular board exams. But once we do get this board recognition, we would plan to extend our offering to include high school as well in the future years.
Okay, so I believe this particular experiment that you have is still in a fledgling stage. And how many children do you have right now? Because I believe when the offering was made, there seemed to be a flood of applications. So were you hard put to choose out of those applications? How many applications did you receive, and how many did you finally choose?
So I will proudly say that we have not rejected a single child who was interested in studying with us. If the parents want their children to get a Bharati education and they are willing to put in the effort that is needed for this kind of education, we will accept the child. So right now, we have a little over 40 children in our full-time Gurukulam. So we have two kinds of offerings. We have the full-time Gurukulam, which is what mostly we've been talking about so far, where children don't go to regular school. Instead, they study with us from home. It's an online system. We have classes that are conducted online. And so we have 40 children, a little over 40 in that. We conduct classes in 2 time zones for the online Gurukulam. One is in the US time zone and one is in the India time zone. So this accommodates countries from all over the world between these 2 time zones. So we currently have children studying from over 8 countries with us. The other offering that we do besides our full-time Gurukulam is for parents who do not want to pull their children out of regular school. They want their children to learn some of this, but they still want to keep them in the regular school. We have after-school programs, what we call our co-schooling program. So in our co-schooling program, currently we have over 100 children. So together we have a little over 140 children studying with us right now.
And what are the expansion plans?
Yeah, so we're this actually, believe it or not, was the first year that we offered a full-time Gurukulam. This was the first academic year. We just started that part. The co-schooling was going on even, prior to that for a couple of years. And the full-time Gurukulam, we were actually not expecting to have so many children who would be, whose parents would be willing to enroll them with us full-time. But to our pleasant surprise, we found there was a very positive response. So, and that was just last year when we really didn't have months of publicity. This was a very short time within which we started it. So this year we are expecting to really expand our numbers, and further plans for expansion include having physical campuses. So going from online only to having physical campus options as well. We are currently looking at doing this somewhere in Madhya Pradesh in India, in having a physical location. And we're also looking at having one perhaps or more eventually, perhaps in the US as well. We're looking perhaps at somewhere in Texas, starting a physical school. So so we really want to scale this up big time. We believe that, every child should have, every Bharatiya child should have access to this kind of education. So if their parents want it, it should be available to them. And that's what we want to make possible with this.
That appears to be very promising. What's the kind of profile of these 40 children that you have? Are they from the elite background exclusively, or is there some diversity among them?
So again, we have a very diverse group. I'm very proud to say. We have children, first of all, as I said, from all over. So this is all over India as well as in multiple other countries of the world. Of course, our largest numbers are from the US and from India itself. In terms of their backgrounds, we have the whole range. We have children of farmers in rural India studying with us. We have children of tech professionals in the Silicon Valley, both of India as well as the Silicon Valley of the US, California, studying with us. So we have this really large diversity of children that study with us.
And are they all Indians, or you also have people from US registering for these courses?
Yeah, so at present, all our children are of Indian origin. But we are expecting that as we grow, and our goal, our hope is that someday this will be mainstream education in Bharata, and will not only be spread all over India, but that looking at how successful it is and how good it is for children, that there will come a day when non-Indians will be queuing up as well, and this will spread all over outside the boundaries of India as well.
We hope so, and I think that is the way forward, definitely. But is this being exclusively online a limitation? Do you have problems with the parents because it is fully online, or even the children find it difficult?
So certainly the online medium has certain challenges. Right now, of course, as you know, the mainstream schooling is online, has been thanks to the pandemic. So that, in a way, coincided very well with the opening of our Gurukulam, and it helped parents, ease parents' concerns about that, because they saw that online regular schools were running online. So first of all, we've found, just based on experience, that children, even young children, learn very well online, to our surprise. It is, of course, it has certain challenges. Children tend to lose focus sooner. But this is true, again, as I said, of all schools right now. However, the big advantage, which would not have been possible to do in one place at this time, is the kind of expertise and knowledge we are bringing in for your child. So, I could not have had an expert in Sanskrit. I'm teaching my children Sanskrit. I'm an expert in, another Indian language, teaching that to my children. And then an expert in Sanskritam who also teaches mathematics, who's an expert in that too, and is able to teach in Sanskritam, who is able to teach based on Bhaskaracharya's Leelavati, or to find another person who can teach Itihasa from the Indian viewpoint in Sanskritam. So we have we are lucky to have found a fantastic group of teachers who are capable of teaching this in Sanskritam. And so the online medium allows you to bring these teachers, these experts, into your own home to teach your child. So that's sort of overrides the definite little drawbacks of doing this all online. I must add that it's not entirely online. So in our full-time Gurukulam, we have 2 camps every year. So this is in person. So, when in the summer, for instance, we are starting very shortly our India summer camp. This time, because of Corona, even the summer camp is going to be online. However, in the US, we are hoping that we'll be able to actually go ahead and do this in person. So we will have our Gurukulam children join us in one location where they come with their families. So we have a big camp for 2 to 3 weeks when the children will interact with each other, get to spend a lot of time with each other. Perhaps some of our teachers would be able to join once Corona is gone. Right now travel is very restricted, but that is the idea, that twice a year these children meet, learn together in a very fun setting with their peers, and then the rest of the year they have the online sessions.
Okay, so that takes care of the socializing part also, I guess.
Absolutely. And actually, it's amazing. So, my our children have not really met each other, most of them. A few of them, who live in the same cities, have happened to get together and meet. But otherwise, the vast majority of our children have not ever met personally, physically. But you should see the kind of camaraderie they have. I mean, children can make friends and have a lot of fun just being online. So I'm very impressed and heartened to see that they've already made very close bonds with each other, and they're in fact really looking forward to having this in-person camp so they can finally meet these great friends of theirs.
You can show us some of the examples of how your school is conducted.
Yes. Yeah, that would be, I think, very illuminating of how it goes. So, could we have? I had sent you some video clips. So, if we could play the first one, I believe that's a Ganitam class in progress.
Okay, so there's a Ganitam class in progress, and let me tell you that the Ganita that is taught in this Gurukulam is based on Leelavati. And that's the beauty of Leelavati is that the Ganitam in Leelavati is taught in a manner that the child learns not only the Ganita, he also learns the meter and also learns the language. So 3 in 1. So let's have an example of this here. Can we play that video number 1, please?
अहम् अहम् अर्धरूपेण करोमि एवम् इदानीं किं प्राप्तम्
हाफ सर्कल आचार्य
अस्य अर्धवृत्तं सेमी सर्कल अर्धवृत्तम् अधुना पश्यतु यदि अहम् उद्घाटयामि तदा अत्र एका रेखा अस्ति खलु तस्याः रेखायाः नाम किम् व्यासः समीचीनम् एषा रेखा एव अस्माकं व्यासः
And well, we can talk a little bit about the Ganitam, I think, and then we can see the.
Yes. I would definitely like you to talk about the Leelavati method of teaching Ganitam. And
sure.
Also, because they have this fancy notions of giving free play to the children and not subjecting them to rote learning. I think that seems to be totally counterintuitive according to me. So what do you have to say about that as well?
Absolutely, 100%. So in the Bharatiya Shiksha Paddhati, early education is all about rote learning. It is about, so the idea is that at that time, you just learn it. You don't really understand it very well because you're still too young to comprehend all that. But that's an age when memory is excellent. So children just learn effortlessly. They learn these things. And once you've learned by memorization, once you've learned the content, then when you get to a slightly older age, you start understanding. So that's the second stage. And I would say maybe that's, about late primary and middle school age. That's when you start understanding. The early primary is entirely just learning, just, remembering it. And then when you get to high school or, late high school stage, that's when a rhetoric kind of phase sets in, where you reason, you argue, you debate. That is the famous, Bharatiya parampara, right? Debating, reasoning, debating. So all these come naturally as you progress in this paddhati. And the Western system has somehow thrown out the memorization part as not important. But that really, again, we saw the whole effects of memorization in that one study. I think a lot more studies can be done and will shed more light. But, with the differences in gray matter, with the increases in gray matter in certain areas of the brain. So doing this early in life definitely has an effect on the brain. And also, so in this clip, you didn't see it. But we do have memorization of the Leelavati shlokas. And so children, whether it is Ganitam, whether it is Bhugula, whether it is, whatever else, Jyotisha, Ayurveda, in all the subjects, we have a component of memorization where they learn the relevant verses from the Shastras. They're also taught the meaning, of course, according to their age level. So we definitely follow this, Kanthasti Karanam is a very important, it's a daily class in our Gurukulam, which is devoted to Kanthasti Karanam of different things. It may be Sanskrit Shabdru, it may be the Gunana Koshtakas, which is the multiplication tables, which we teach in Sanskritam. It may be Leelavati Sutras, or it may be Panini, Ashtadhyayi. It could be any of this, but a significant amount of time is devoted to memorization.
Exactly. I think that's why the Indian children always had that edge over the Westerners because of the extra gray matter, because of this Kanthastikaranam. But I think the Western leftists seem to have caught up with the Indian education system, and they're dissuading them from doing the rote learning. And so they're probably leveling them down. That seems to be the case right now.
Right. Interestingly, there is now a branch of, in the Western world as well. There is a branch that's sort of growing, calling it memory-based education, memorization-based education, where they do precisely this, where they have their children memorize things when they're young and give a lot of importance to that. And in fact, now there are, they used to have spelling bees, and I mean, they still have them. So they have maths bee and spelling bee. Now they also have memory bee. So the importance of memory is kind of coming back, even in their system. Only thing is they don't have the beautiful sort of lyrical, melodious sort of compositions, works that we have in Sanskritam. I mean, even if you're looking at something as prosaic as mathematics, right? If you listen to the Leelavati being chanted, it's beautiful, it's musical. That they don't have. But we have really such a treasure where everything can just be learned like this and never forgotten.
So do we have an example of this Leelavati chanting right now?
Actually, I don't believe I put that into any of the clips. We do have examples of children chanting, though not Leelavati. There is, Ekatmata Stotra, there is Gunana Koshtaka chanting. So these clips we have on our web page. It's www.agastyagurukulam in one word.org. So if you go there and go to the media, we have some videos of children chanting on there that you can listen to. So just coming back to how Ganita is being, taught. So one major textbook, of course, is the Leelavati, Bhaskaracharya's Leelavati. We also have this Shulba Sutras. We also have a few other works. So we compile those and then teach based on those. Now, where in certain instances we do not have, these textbooks were not written as textbooks meant for children at different ages. So we are in the process, actually we're working with IIT Bombay on developing the curriculum in mathematics. So our curriculum committee is looking at these various sources, deciding, Leelavati, for instance, goes all the way from basic addition all the way to much more complicated things which you would learn in high school. So we are separating those out into age-appropriate, textbooks, and also supplementing it wherever necessary, where we don't have this easily available in our Shastric texts. Now, keep in mind, this system of education really died, right? Nobody has been learning Ganitam from Leelavati for a very long time. So we don't, necessarily have all the material that they had when they were teaching Shastric-based Ganita. So wherever we find lacunae that we do not have material from our Shastras, we then supplement it with what is available in the modern education. So that is how we are developing the curriculum. It's the same with other subjects as well. For Vigyanam also, we have a curriculum development team that's working again with IIT Bombay. And they're also looking, in Vigyanam, you don't have one particular textbook of Vijnana, work of Vijnana, like, Leelavati or Shulba Sutras or Aryabhatiyam. So this is being gleaned from multiple sources. For instance, Rasayana Shastra was very well known. Of course, we do have, in terms of health, we have Ayurveda, a lot of which is not only for doctors to treat disease, but a lot of Ayurveda is about how to stay healthy yourself, understanding your body, how it functions, and how to be healthy. So a lot of it is about learning the right dinacharya. So this is, in fact, something that is not just for Vaidyas or medical professionals. It's a basic amount of Ayurveda is really important for all of us to know. So we're intending to teach our children that as well as part of our summer camps, and perhaps we'll have some elective courses on that as well. So that's how we are going about creating our curriculum from different sources.
So at this point, let's have a look at the other clip that you sent.
Right, it's an Itihasa clip, the second one.
Itihasa clip. So let's have a look at the video number 2, the Itihasa clip.
Acharya avadat sarvam vismita shabdaha vismaratu.
Kim?
Vandi mantri asti va?
Vandi mantri nasti saha
ऋषिः एव अस्ति, विद्वान् अस्ति.
सः तत् दुष्टपरम्परा अरचयित्वा पूर्णमेव आसीत् वा?
दुष्टपरम्परायाः सः तथा आसीत् तस्मिन् समये. सः न जानाति स्म. एवं चर्चा भवति, एवमेव परम्परा आगता इति सः अपि एवमेव करोति स्म. परन्तु अष्टावक्रः ज्ञानी आसीत् खलु, वन्दी ज्ञानी न आसीत्.
So that was a lesson on Ashtavakra, the story of Ashtavakra that they were learning.
Yes, something that if people don't even know about Ashtavakra, if you tell them, they will have to Google it maybe.
Yeah, so we want our children, to really know our Shastric based itihasa as well. So Shastric, Vijnana, and Ganita we talked about, but people may wonder if there really is something called Shastric based itihasa. So what we mean is itihasa based on Bharatiya works and Bharatiya authors. So this is going back all the way from textbooks, works such as Rajatarangini and Rajavamsha, even some of our Puranas. They have accounts of many kings in different parts of India. They even provide the dates in many of these, which I was not aware of for a long time, that actually are, even Puranas have such
Yes, yes,
actual
they have the
history.
complete genealogy. In fact, if you work with the Puranas, you can get the complete genealogy. One of our scholars, Vedavira Arya, has actually done that work, and they brought out the complete genealogy based on the Puranas.
So, yeah,
And
this
they
is
were deliberately suppressed by the British.
exactly. And being a product of that sort of education myself, right? This is something I had to rediscover or discover much later in life. So those are the things, those sources are, we use for creating, again, our Itihasa curriculum is also in development. And in addition to those, for the more recent history, so we look at works such as, for instance, there is this poem, a beautiful poem called Mathura Vijayam. This is about the Vijayanagara Empire conquering, Krishnadevaraya conquering southern parts of India, like Tamil Nadu. And there are works regarding that as well. Locally, people have written about this, composed about this, and then we look at R.C. Majumdarji's series on history for more modern history, but the sort of Indian narrative. So we are really all about giving our children a decolonized narrative. Decolonization, I look at it as a process. I mean, I have been partially decolonized, but I believe there's still a way to go, and we want to give our kids a head start on this, on a decolonized Indic narrative, being as accurate as possible in terms of historical events.
Okay, so let's have a look at that third clip that you sent.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can move over to the audience question and answer. Before that, I'll ask you the last question, and then we'll move over to what's this third clip about?
So this third clip is actually not teaching by a teacher, but a few of our Gurukulam children are teaching about how the Indian Panchanga system works. So it's a clip of that. Just to give you an idea of, yes, we are in a Sanskritam medium school, a Gurukulam, but we teach English. English is compulsory for everyone, and we teach a very good standard of English. So our children are very confident whether we're talking about Sanskritam and Bharatiya Parampara, or whether they're talking about contemporary things and speaking English.
Let's have a look at that.
The Bharatiya Panchanga follows two different ways of calculating the months in a year. Yes! One is the lunar calendar, in which the months follow the 30-day moon cycle. The name of the month is based on the star on which Purnami or full moon day occurs. So if the Purnima occurs on Chitra Nakshatram, the month is Chaitra Masa, and so on. Do you know what this calendar is called? Because it follows the moon, it is called Chandramana. Yes! And the other is the solar calendar, and therefore called the Sauramana. This calendar is believed to have has been later adapted to becoming the Gregorian calendar. The solar months are based on Sankramanas or the sun crossing, groups of stars or rashis.
Okay, we're talking about the lunar solar calendar that we have.
That's right. Even a lot of adults, I would say the majority of, adult practicing Hindus probably don't know how they count the months and how that works, right? These are things which our children, we want them, to know. This is just like we know there are 12 months in a year, starts with January, goes through December. That's how we were taught, right? Our children should not only know that, but they should also know the entire, how the months in our Panchanga go as well. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Children who are very confident and rooted in Bharatiya Parampara while making, being relevant in the modern world as well.
Right. One final question. Do you find that these children, especially those who come from the full-time Gurukulam, they will have problem mainstreaming later on?
So, as I mentioned to you earlier, so right now we have only till 8th grade. And at that point, parents will either have to continue homeschooling on their own right now, or mainstreaming them in into high schools. But even if we extend it till 12th standard, at that point, they will have to mainstream into university. So that's our goal, is to prepare them to be ready for mainstreaming. And I don't foresee that there will be any issue at all. The big requirements are, they will be well trained in English. So that's the number one thing. If they want to go back to an English-based education, that's the number one thing that they need to have. And they will have that, the fluency in English. The other things that are really important if they want to go in for further math and science study is to have a solid base in both maths and science. Now, if you come to think of it, a lot of mathematical concepts, right, they actually came from India. Zero came from India. The concept of infinity came from India. Pythagoras' theorem was not, it was not Pythagoras who first put forth Pythagoras' theorem. It was developed in India. We just don't have a name. We don't give it, we don't advertise it by one person's name, but it was, discovered in India. The same with so many things, some of the basic things of calculus. Right, in the Shilpa Sutras, yeah. And same thing with calculus as well. So, in fact, it's conjectured that, all of these went, or there's also some evidence to that. It's not just conjecture. So that it, traveled to Arabia and then traveled to Europe with a certain lag of certain centuries. And then in this traveling, and then it became Western math, and then it has come back and is being taught to us. And in fact, there are researchers who have looked into this and think that we're actually teaching some flawed mathematics that were introduced by this whole system of transmission, transmission errors. So instead, we are saying, let's go back to our original and let's study the original source of these ideas. So our children, I believe, will have a very strong background in mathematics, learning from such textbooks. Same with Vijnanam. And as I said, our curriculum, we call it like an NCERT plus, meaning the very least they would learn is NCERT in areas where we cannot find a particular Shastric correlate, but where we can, we have a lot more to offer. So it is a very rigorous kind of schooling, and I don't foresee at all that our children will have any issues with mainstreaming when they graduate from our school.
Right. So I think it's time. There's a few audience questions as well, because we are live and a lot of people are connected. I think we have an audience of over 600 connected right now. So there does seem to be a lot of interest. I request our viewers to please like this video, share it around, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon for notifications, and contribute to the channel and also the great translation project that we have taken up for Fatava Alamgiri. That link is available and that page is still live. We are at about 64%, 36% to go. Let's move to the questions. Okay, Ritesh Shah, how do the parents see the educational development of their children in Gurukul system compared to their children in a US private education?
So I guess I'm very qualified to answer that because my children were in private school last year and this year they're in Gurukulam. The growth has been phenomenal, and looking back, I don't know if I expected that they would be, would have come this far. So my children are, and this is true of all our Gurukulam kids. It's not just, of course, my children. They're in a space of a year, not even a year because our term hasn't ended. These children are understanding very fluent Sanskritam. You heard how those classes are taught. They are very, very fluent with understanding, and they also speak Sanskritam. Of course, they are gaining the fluency in Sanskritam, and that's going very well. Many of them did not know any other language in terms of writing. Now they have all learned another Indian language, reading and writing, and they're all doing like basic level of learning in that as well. So just in that, you can see that they're learning more. Of course, we're also doing the other subjects. So I would say compared to a US private school, they're probably, this might be a little more demanding and they may be learning a little more overall in terms of the sort of quantum.
Okay, next question. Ritesh again, the Gurukul education system has been lost. How do we redevelop it on a national scale in India and abroad?
Absolutely. So this was the first big challenge that faced us, where do we get a curriculum from? And very importantly, where do we get teachers from as well? Because this system was gone. So we have, I guess I did not get a chance to mention, but I have two other colleagues on the board of Agastya Gurukulam who are powerhouses, each of them. So Sri Balaji, he is himself, he's an entrepreneur, a very successful tech entrepreneur in the US, but he's also himself a scholar of Tamil, Sanskrit, and Itihasa. So he has done a lot of reading regarding what different authors have written about this Gurukula Parampara that existed in the pre-Macaulay era and how they were being taught at that time. So we are actually doing a lot of this based on research into how things were being taught. So that's number one. Now, how do we scale this up and develop this back nationally? That's what we are. So first thing is that we need to develop a curriculum, and we are doing that. So as I said, we have committees who are developing this curriculum even as we teach. And we want, once that's done, the other thing I should mention is that, Agastya Gurukulam, if there is, that was not brought out, it's completely a non-profit organization. So all this curriculum that we are going to be developing, we want it available to use. We want people to take it and use it in their schools and institutions. As I said, our goal is that all children should have the opportunity to get this kind of education. So once we have the curriculum developed, We plan to make it available on a public platform for anyone to download and use. But we also intend to scale up our own schooling. And as I said, we plan to start with different physical locations, but we hope to grow and grow very soon. Eventually, I think someday what we would, what our goal is, just like in the era of Nalanda and Takshashila, people from all over the world came to India to study. We should, we should recreate that kind of a knowledge base in India, where people would come to study from us these really wonderful, knowledge systems.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's been a futile quest in India in trying to attract the Westerners coming to India or from other countries based on the Western knowledge systems and the Western idiom. If we had pursued this, our own tradition-based knowledge systems, I think we would have succeeded much better. But then what can we do? We were saddled with what is called only a transfer of power from one colonial system to a post-colonial system, which is a copy of that colonial system. Of course, that is a long-standing grouse with many of us. Next question, please. Ajay Sharma. My 11-year son has just recently undergone introductory course with Sanskrit Bharati. At his age and level, would he be able to blend into this pedagogy? We are moving to homeschooling from this year.
So we are open to admissions this year for the coming academic year. Do get in touch with us, www.agastyagurukulam as one word.org. And so for children who are entering at the first or second standard levels, because we are teaching everything at a very basic level, we are just taking children in as such. All children at that age are welcome to join us. Now at higher classes, what happens is, as you can see, our children already are at a certain degree of Sanskrit proficiency, and they are able to understand classes in Sanskritam. So we need a sort of a little bit of a ramp up for new children who join to be able to join these classes. So we have a planned bridge course, so a rapid teaching course, and we have a syllabus as well, which is going to be done over the summer. And at the end of that, we will have a pariksha, a pravesha pariksha into the higher grades, and children who clear that pariksha definitely can join us. We welcome all those who are interested.
Right. Next, Ajay Sharma ji again. Is there also a possibility of a blended approach, part online and part offline mode? Therefore, can we take courses rather than complete online school?
So if you're interested in that, I would recommend you join our co-schooling offering. A lot of this discussion has, of course, been about the full-time Gurukulam, because that's a very unique proposition. But like many organizations do have after-school classes or weekend classes, we do also. The difference, again, our unique part is that we'll be teaching Shastra-based Ganitam, even in those classes. We'll be teaching Sanskritam, Shastra-based Ganitam, some decolonized Itihasa as well. So it is a good program for those who want to continue regular schooling.
Next question. Okay, thank you for inviting Archana ji. Great initiative. I will try to enroll my nephew in Agastya Gurukulam. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
Ramesh Noon. How much time do parents' involvement require to spend with children who join Agastya Gurukulam? And does parents' knowledge in Sanskrit necessary?
That's a very, very common concern with a lot of parents. So what I tell them is, no, parents do not need to know Sanskritam, but parents must be willing to learn. Putting children in this Gurukulam is not like putting children in a regular school. In a regular school too, you'll have to help them with homework and things like that. But in this Gurukulam, it's not just helping them with things, it's about also learning ourselves. It's a journey, right? And it's a very enjoyable journey. I have learned so much in this 1 year with my kids. And if you're willing to go on that journey, this is a wonderful thing to have your kids be part of. How much time do you need practically? I would say it depends, of course, on the age of your child. Older children who will study by themselves, you probably don't have to put in as much time. But at the younger ages, I would say a minimum of 1 hour a day. If you can put in more than that, that would be great. But a minimum of an hour a day, if you can put in, which, if you come to think of it, is not that bad. They'll be fine in this Gurukulam if you can do that.
Great. Ritesha, thank you, Dixit ji, for choosing this excellent topic for discussion today. Thank you, Ritesh ji. Dhananjay Mishra ji, thank you. Thank you for your help. Anshul Sharma, on your website, there are 3 programs. That is Gurukulam, Jigyasa, and Pragya. What is the difference between the 3 programs?
So the Gurukulam program is the full-time homeschooling program. Jigyasa and Pragya are the co-schooling options I told you about when children belong to other schools. If Sanjay ji, if it's all right, I just realized that I started talking about our board members, and I did not say, anything about our third board member, who's been a key inspiration behind this. You've already had her as a guest on this show.
I've had her over.
That's right.
Vijaya Lakshmi ji.
Vijaya ji.
Twice,
Right.
not just once, twice.
Oh, okay. I thought I knew about once. So yeah, Vijay Lakshmi ji, she has homeschooled. She was a Wall Street. She had a career on Wall Street. She's a tech person herself. She quit her career, went into homeschooling for her children, and she did it entirely Sanskrit based. So she was really the pioneer, and her children are now in top US universities, doing very coveted courses. So she's done this very successfully and has been a key inspiration for Agastya Gurukulam.
Okay. So is this question answered? This Jigyasa, Pragya?
I believe so. They're co-schooling versus the regular schooling options.
Okay, Lokesh Naidu. I want to enroll my 3-year-old Telugu kid in India to your Gurukulam. How much is the cost and the mode or the language you're learning?
Okay, so you'll have to wait a little bit. A 3-year-old is a little too young for us to take on right now. We do take children from 5 onwards, as long as they're able to sit and pay attention, because it is a little challenging paying attention online for very young kids. Now, getting back to your other questions, the mode of learning, language of learning, it is Sanskritam in our full-time Gurukulam. In our co-schooling options, we have a bilingual mode. We use Sanskritam as well as English, because those children come from the regular English schooling, so we use a bilingual teaching. In terms of cost, so what I was mentioning earlier, Agastya Gurukulam is entirely non-profit. So we run on a cost-sharing model. Our full-time Gurukulam, we actually, the fees vary a little bit sometimes from term to term, because we just take the total operating expenses, we divide them by the number of children we have, and that's how we ask parents to pay the fees. Now, I must say again, very proudly, we have not said no to any child, irrespective of their ability to pay or not. We do have several children that we subsidize because they could not afford such education, but their parents really wanted them to study with us. So we are committed to finding a way for all children to study with us. Please contact us, depending on which program you're interested in, and we can let you know about the specific fee.
And as far as Telugu is concerned, I'm quite sure Telugu is one of the closest to Sanskritam. So for a somebody having Telugu as a mother tongue shouldn't be very difficult.
Not at all. And
Hindi background, if people of Hindi background can do it, then for Telugu and Kannada background, it should be just, smooth sailing.
So we do have some of these languages also taught as second language in our Gurukulam. I just want to point that out.
Anshul Sharma, why can't we have a Vedic board in India? Well, one has been sanctioned, but it's yet to be operationalized. It's high time when this is required in India. Well, it is yet to be operationalized. Patanjali has got that nod. Dhananjay Mishra, the conflict which the kids will have after reading the decolonized history and the corrupt one. Any thoughts?
Well, if we can do this right, they will not read the corrupt history for a long time. While they're in our Gurukulam, we teach them decolonized history. So by the time they come across the corrupted history, hopefully, as long as you don't mean the news media channels, but talking about, formally studying it, by then, hopefully, we would have established the decolonized knowledge very well. So I just want to maybe mention that we've had some examples of where some of our Gurukulam children, when they got WhatsApp or Instagram forwards with, for instance, some of the, the narratives that go on, bashing Hinduism and bashing India. Some of our children here in the US have responded on social media very strongly, putting out the correct narrative. So it's really heartwarming when we see this. Already we see this effect in our children.
Okay, that's great. Absolutely wonderful to know. Anshul Sharma, any plans of expanding in India in offline mode?
So we do have the India Gurukulam going on in online mode. In terms of offline mode, yes, we do plan our first campus to be coming up in Madhya Pradesh hopefully in the next couple of years. After that, we would look at expanding that to other places.
Next question. नमस्ते, आज का विषय बाल शिक्षा पर है, पर वयस्क व्यक्ति के संस्कृत सीखने का उपयुक्त माध्यम क्या है, कोई ऑनलाइन कोर्स इत्यादि. Can you follow Hindi or should I translate it for you?
Oh, yeah, I follow Hindi, no problem. So I would suggest, for instance, the Samskrita Bharati is a very well-known organization that does a lot of this Sanskrit teaching. In fact, many of us, including our board members, all three of us, we have studied Sanskrit through Samskrita Bharati. I did study some in school, but the level was so watered down that it gave me a really just bits of, introduction to Sanskritam. And then Samskrita Bharati has really helped add to that knowledge. So I would recommend you look at their offerings for older people, for adults.
Yes. They do a very fine job of introducing every age group to Sanskrit. Next. Seema Joshi. Sanjay ji, your work is making great impact. My kid is attending Agastya Gurukulam, so you have a testimonial since last year, after we came to know of it from Jaipur Dialogues. Archana ji or Jaipur Dialogues team ko bhi naman. Thank you, Seema ji.
Thank you.
Rakesh Ori, your assessment of risk of the idea being co-opted in the US. They're notorious in copying, scaling, corrupting dharmic ideas, and then denying their roots. Would you copyright?
You're absolutely right. So, yoga, for instance, has been co-opted to a large extent. And the same thing, I see efforts towards that in other areas as well, like Ayurveda now going on. So, yes, there is that risk. But the thing is, when you are so good, you necessarily will be copied. So when Indian Bharatiya tradition is so good, we're okay with their copying it, as long as they do it fine and give us credit. But we can't do very much to directly to insist on that. But this is a possibility. We are going to try to be as true to the original and true to our principles as possible. And then we'll hope for the best.
Okay. Well, they haven't really been able to copy yoga because their Christian education makes them deny the higher parts of the yoga. So maximum they can do 5 out of 8, and after that maybe the 6th one a little bit. But when it comes to dharana, dhyana and samadhi, they are lost. Either they are lost or they have to acknowledge the Indian origin. Otherwise, they can take the preparation part, the first 4, and call it yoga. We don't mind. It's not yoga. It's just preparation for yoga. Valiappan Subramanian, is there any online only option, and how many hours commitment will be necessary per week? Any place you can recommend for deep Tamil learning also?
So we do teach Tamil in our school, in our Gurukulam, and again, we've had to we try to make that all consistent with, Bharatiya thought, because even in a lot of, for instance, language learning, we see a lot of other thoughts that have crept in. Is there an online only option? Yes, our options are online only at this time. In terms of hours commitment, it depends if you want to do the full-time school. We have class for 3.5 to 4.5 hours a day. So it's only about half a day of worth of school. And then the children have the time to learn other things. So a lot of our children learn. We do offer optional electives as well, like Carnatic music, Bharatanatyam, other art. So depends on those other things, but the basic commitment is this much. If you choose the co-schooling option, it's a few hours a week rather than few hours a day.
Okay. Praveen Kase, thank you, Archana ji and Sanjay ji. One more proud parent here of the Agastya Gurukulam school. Okay, great.
It's great to see many of our parents here.
Okay, Anshul Sharma. US copying our techniques is not at all good. They have come up with beer yoga in the quest of copying it. Hope they don't corrupt the Gurukul system too.
Well, I don't think they can corrupt us as long as we stay true to our principles, and that's what I was alluding to before. They can call it beer yoga and do it, but it will not have the effects of yoga. So they can take this and morph it, but it will not give them that phala. For that, you have to come back to the, be true to what the source is telling you.
Right. So that brings us to the end of the show. Questions, we had a lot of questions today. And thank you, Archana ji, and thank you, and wish you well in this quest. I'm sure that from 40 to 40,000 is not many years away. Thank you. Good night from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay ji. It was a pleasure.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. Jai Hind.